It's Rossco from the Rockpit here, and I had the absolute pleasure of chatting to Ray Ahn, bass extraordinaire from the iconic band called the Hard-Ons, the Australian staple diet of punk, rock and metal. We talk about his 40-year career in the band, their latest addition, Mr. Tim Rogers, and also the album itself, album number 13. Sorry, sir, that riff is taken. Sit back, relax and enjoy Mr. Ray Ahn, bass player from the Hard-Ons. Good afternoon, Ray. How are you, sir?
How are you, Ross? I'm fine. What about yourself?
Very, very good. I'm actually extremely pleased to be talking to you, actually, as I know you guys are flat out busy organising the next leg of your West Australian tour to come over and finally see us on the 4th of August, which very, very excited about. You've got 4 big gigs planned starting from the 4th all the way through the 7th. So you're pretty much jammed from head to toe doing gig after gig after gig, which is great. Is it a big relief finally getting over here? Because I know you guys planned this for 2019, and then obviously COVID hit and everything. Sort of the brakes had to get put on. Is it finally good to get out and venture those legs again?
Yes, we're pretty big fans of Perth as a city, and also as somewhere where a lot of really good music comes from. So we do have a lot of friends and people who like the band as well, like fans and whatnot, in Perth. And I actually am the current bass player of the Perth band, The Victims, as well. And in fact, just yesterday, I got a phone call from James Baker, the drummer from The Victims, to say that he was coming and to the show. So I realised that I'm part of a historical, legendary Perth band as well. So we have a lot of affinity with Perth and Western Australia in general. Our lead singer, Tim, was born in Kalgoorlie.
Oh, wow. So this is almost a coming home of sorts, essentially. Is there any chance of having any sort of sneaky, off-the-cuff gigs other than the 4 that you've got planned at the moment, or is it pretty much just that's all we can squeeze in because we're all pretty much busy?
No, the 4 of us are pretty busy schedule-wise with lots of things. I mean, there was a time when the Hard-Ons were the only band that we do. Me and Blackie anyway, because we grew up together in primary school, went to primary school together and high school together. So this was our high school band, so it was our only band. It was our first band and our only band. So it was the only thing that we did for a long time. Yeah. But as life changes and as you get older, we wanted to play lots and lots of different music, so that because there just wasn't enough satisfaction in playing in one band after a while. We did the Hard-Ons for 10 years straight, and that's all we did. But the last 3 years of the Hard-Ons, we were desperate for something else. So the only way to keep the Hard-Ons going is to have other musical things and artistic things happening, because if you didn't do that, if you just, I'm talking from personal point of view of the 4 of us that are in the band. If the Hard-Ons were the only band that we did, we just run out of steam after a few months. Yeah, exactly. Really, but that's just how we are, because we're no longer teenagers that
life gets busy.
Have put all yes. So and then creatively, we can't seem to stay in just one band and be satisfied with that. But at the same time, I mean, we take the Hard-Ons music really seriously. So we'll, when we do play, we'll give it a good go, I suppose.
And actually leading to that's a very, really good point. I've been watching a lot of your earlier stuff, and a lot of the earlier stuff on the Hard-Ons was very much, and this is just speaking from my personal experience, it was like you guys just played to make awesome music. It was never a thing of playing to be famous or playing to be put in a pigeonhole. You were something that was collectively different, particularly in the 70s and 80s, where you could be pigeonholed quite easily. You could be a mod or a punk or a metal. The music that you guys put together, it just seemed like it was an influential mix that made it so appealing to so many people. Was that something that you always wanted to do from the start, or was it just something that consciously happened with the influences of yourself and the two other guys?
No, it was very conscious. Just if you have a look at the name Hard-Ons, for example, straight away you can tell that there was no intention to turn it into a mainstream career or career of any sort, really, or to be in line with any sort of acceptance in the music industry.
Yep.
We deliberately chose that name to kind of distance ourselves from basically everything. I think it was, looking back on it, we consciously self-isolated ourselves from everyone and everything, and that put us in really good stead, because the only thing that we were left was ourselves. But at the time,
yep,
we couldn't really play our instruments, so we had to really dig deep into the whole weird esoteric idea of creation of art,
Yeah, exactly.
But we were just young kids.
Yeah.
But we were stuck with nobody and nothing but just instruments that our parents had bought us.
Yeah.
And we deliberately isolated ourselves from everyone and everything by calling ourselves the Hard-Ons.
Yeah.
And that made us. I mean, immediately we got banned from playing in lots of venues when we started, but
Wow.
we just kept on getting lots of gigs because the band was good,
That's
So
almost like it made itself a magnifying glass of not relying on the sort of, I don't like to say the artificial pump of mainstream media, but you created your own niche and your own music based on just purely your talent, which it made the people appreciate it, or particularly for me, because I remember listening to you guys having to sneak out and listen to stuff on like Triple J because it wasn't getting played on mainstream radio over here. And I kind of, you get that real appreciation that you guys were just playing to make good music. You didn't give a shit or you know what I mean? Like, and that was the beautiful part about it.
yeah, well, that's why we enjoy playing in a band with Tim Rogers, our current singer.
Yeah, yep.
Because the four of us had to ask ourselves a very long time ago just one question, and the question was, why do you want to play in this band? And the answer had to be for the music.
Yeah.
And and the Tim's answer was for the music and nothing else.
Yep.
And because we can't really give him what his other projects can give him, bands like You or My and whatnot. We can't give him that, but we can give him the Hard-Ons music, and that's what he wanted. That's why he's in the band. And
he was also
as it turns out,
fan of you guys. I was reading quite a few articles, and he's actually mentioned you guys quite a few times, and it almost felt like. And when I was reading, there was one particular article which I thought was really good, and I'm pretty sure actually you actually was one of the interviewers was you saying about what are you really good at. What are you good at being awesome? What else are you good at, sort of thing? And then it was the process of, well, Tim was just a good fit because he loved the music. He was a fan.
That's right.
He understood the mantra of the band, and it was just a beautiful connection, which it just translates so well, particularly in the last album. The 13th album that you guys have written together is something special. And I think it's almost like a split tangent to reality of the next sort of stage of the Hard-Ons. It's speaking of Tim, how did that conversation start of getting him in for vocals? Did you have a list of candidates that you thought might suit the music, or did you know Tim through an acquaintance or a friend? Tim's a huge name, but in saying that though, you guys were well established in the scene. How did that conversation even start?
Well, I've known Tim for about 35 years.
Oh, wow.
We've been friends for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for such a long time. But what happens is, we played a few shows together, Big Day Out and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we didn't cross paths that much. And it was because his band, You or My, did not really need to give my band, the Hard-Ons, any sort of support or anything, because we might go, look, give us this much money and we'll play with you.
Yep.
And they would say, well, why would we have to give you a gig? and pay you that much money when there's a young band that really needs the exposure. And we can pay them, who's on a learning curve, pay them less and get them to play because they're way more deserving than you guys. And so, for those kinds of reasons, we had our own path and they had their own path. So we didn't cross paths that much, but every now and then I'll bump into him, or Tim would send me an email saying something like, "Oh, I was at your gig and it was really good," and I'd write, "Well, why the hell didn't you come and say hello?" And he'd say, "Oh, you were busy packing up and stuff." And so, but we'd been friends for a very long time. But the Hard-Ons started playing music together back in, the band, Blackie, the lead guitar player, and Kesh, the original drummer, had a band together in 1980, and I was their friend. And in 1981, they were looking for a new bass player. So at the end of 1981, late 81, early 82, that's when I joined the band. So this is a very, very, very old band. And for that reason, we didn't want to constantly do the same thing that made us stale. So we thought about what can we do to keep on changing things. At one stage, our original singer and drummer came back, just as singer Kesh, and he, there were some problems with him in the band. For the first couple of years, it was good, but then, the last few years, it was, wasn't working. He had things to do in his life that he had to attend to, and he when we had this album booked, he actually said in a group email, "I'd rather just play gigs. I don't want to do a new album." And so that was like bit of a shock to the other three guys in the band. It's like, well, he doesn't want to make this new album. So me and the drummer Murray and Blackie, the guitar player, were in the studio constantly knocking the new album into shape. And then this group email bombshell of, "I don't really want to do it." It's like, wow. Then we had to go back to asking that question: why do you want to be in this band? And the answer just wasn't right with Kesh, the original singer who'd come back. The answer wasn't right. And a few other things that I'm not going to go into happened as well in his personal life. And there was a really good chance to do something very different with the Hard-Ons. So starting with this new album, and I asked the guitar player, Blackie, I said, "Do you want to go back to being lead singer?" And he said, No. And I said, "Well, we've got these songs that go this way. We're going to have to find someone who can do this album." So in regards to this album that we did with Tim Rogers, all the songs were already written and they were being knocked into shape. So I rang Tim, and I didn't tell the other guys in the band, but I just rang Tim and I said, "Do you want to be in the band?" And he said, "What for?" And I said, "We're doing an album." He said, "Okay, no problems." So he said yes straight away. So, but he was, just 2 sentences or so, and he already agreed. And and then the next band practice, when we're, pre-production of those songs that I was telling you about, I said to the other guys, I've asked Tim Rogers if he wants to be in the Hard-Ons, and they said, "Oh, that's a good idea." And the other 2 guys in the band agreed that it was a really good idea because he had the voice. I heard his voice on those songs, and that really worked. And I think we're really happy with the album and how it came out. And I think his voice did suit those songs very much.
Yeah, as I say, I've listened to the album quite a few times, and you can really see the heavy influences that Tim has, and also but in saying that though, it's still the album itself is still sort of travelled the true line that is the Hard-Ons, that sort of high speed intensity that is a clever mix of punk and metal, and you can really see your influences from when you guys were together as a 3-piece in the interim. And going back to, you alluded to Hard-Ons and the Hard-Ons and having the name and having the problem with getting gigs. Did you have any sort of other band names that didn't quite make the cut. So was there ever a chance of the Hard-Ons being called something else?
Yes. When we first started, we were called. When I joined the band was called the Dead Rats.
Oh wow!
And they were making demo tapes and whatnot, and I was just their friend.
Yeah.
So I was drawing, a rat that was standing on its hind legs with a guitar around its neck, playing guitar and vomiting at the same time. I was drawing pictures for their drum skins and stuff like that. So I was their in-house artist and a friend, but I wasn't their bass player at the time. They had a different bass player.
Yeah.
But when I joined the band, they decided to start again with a different name, and I came up with this idea of the plebs, and plebs being meaning somebody who's on the lower rung of the socioeconomic status, because we grew up in Punchbowl in Sydney, which is like a migrant enclave of citizens who are generally more less privileged, rather. Lots and lots of non-English speaking background, recent arrivals with high unemployment issues and things like that. So it was not exactly, it wasn't exactly, Hollywood Boulevard. It wasn't the high life. Yeah. So we kind of wanted to play on that. So we called ourselves the plebs, but we wanted to take it up a notch. By the end of 1982, we wanted to come up with a name that was going to even, because you call yourselves the plebs and it still isn't evocative enough. So we wanted to say something else. So that's why we came up with the name Hard-Ons, because it was, at the time, it was very obnoxious.
Yeah.
And so that's what we went with. There was, because we kept on getting banned from certain places, and we wanted to play, and we're very hungry for more and more gigs. Yeah. And what had happened was we went to Blackie's house, the guitar player's house, and we sat around in his bedroom writing down on bits of paper all these names of bands, And most of them I can't remember, but there was one that I remember was, my choice was the Flying V. I want to call the band the Flying V, and we all play, me and Blackie would play Flying V guitar and bass respectively, and I wanted to call ourselves Flying V. And they both looked at me and they thought I was an idiot, and they just laughed and laughed and laughed. Not only did they laugh and laugh, they told all our friends about it. They said, listen, we had a band meeting, and when we're throwing names for prospective names to get around the fact that we can't get certain gigs because of the inference of having a name like the Hard-Ons. Ray came up with the Flying V, and then he's like, chuckle for the next 8 weeks, and so it was one of those things where it just felt really flat. It's like, well, we like this name, but it's a hell of a uphill battle. Yeah. But then something happened. We kept on plugging away, and in the end, it didn't matter. I mean, at the time, Sydney, you could get a gig anywhere. So at the time, it didn't matter that about 40% of the venues wouldn't have us because of the name, because the other 60% of venues that were allowing us in, we were doing really good business for them. Yeah. So the word got out. Hey, listen, book this three-piece band trio with, the Asian guy and the black guy. They'll pull they'll pull a bit of a crowd, and our crowds were drinking a lot, so people invited us back all the time. So it ended up being really good. And also because we weren't a punk band as such, we were just a band that played really fast, faster than all the other punk. But actually, we're faster than all the other punk bands. Yeah. because we weren't really a punk band, but we're a pop band that actually played really, really fast and, heavy metal style as well. Some weird kind of like high school project gone wrong, our lyrics were, because we did that to, rile people up. And to push the idea that we could sing about this and have this imagery and call the band this, because it was outright, because we had absolutely no desire to be accepted in the mainstream. The big enemy, as I said, was censorship, so that's why we went that way. But, that only, singing about farting and things like that, and the overtly sexist lyrics, that disappeared by 1990 when we released a record called Yummy. There was none of that stuff left, because by 1990 that kind of shtick ran out of steam, and we started playing. We started concentrating solely on the music, and that was kind of like the peak of the band's popularity. But at the same time, that was the beginning of the end for the first period of the Hard-Ons, because at that stage, that's when we all started thinking about maybe all joining other bands, changing the format of the band and stuff like that. So we started getting itchy feet. And so that around that time in 1990, we put out a record called Let There Be Erupt, which was a cover of AC/DC with Henry Rollins. And there was a song that we wrote with Henry on side too. And that was the beginning of us thinking, we want to do something different now. We want to do something different rather than be this band. And so since then, we've been changing non-stop. And having Tim in the band is part of that change. And, a lot of people were surprised when we got Tim in the band, but I was surprised that they were surprised.
Because it just seems to be such a good fit, like particularly Tim's persona and the way he conducts himself, and that sort of, not that sort of up the man sort of attitude that Tim does carry himself with, but he's actually a very humble human being that just has a purest form of love for music, and that transverse so well in his music that he's doing for his other commitments and his other bands, but it also just works so well with you guys. It's refreshing to see that reinvention of the Hard-Ons from its inception to it is now has kind of organically found its own pathway in the music scene, but has still somewhat sort of remained true to its core roots, which I find super, super interesting.
Well, Tim is a very, very talented guy. Most people would have to agree, but he's also the least pretentious person I know. And what I mean by that is that, if you look at the way I'm dressed right now, I'm dressed head to toe in this brand called Champion. It's very comfortable.
Oh yeah, I know
very
Champion.
Comfortable.
Yes, I know
right?
Champion.
And this is like, so I'm covered in 90% polyester, and every time I move my butt a little bit to let out a fart or something, I get electric shocks, because it's just all polyester.
Yeah, I get you.
And but this, but that's just me. I've never been comfortable wearing fancy clothes or anything, because I've got a fancy race. I'm an Asian in this country that's mainly white, so I'm already fancy. I don't need to get any fancier, So with someone like Tim, I see photos of him and I just go, this man is very well dressed and he's very, very good looking. I'm thinking, this man is a very charismatic bastard, Exactly. But there's nothing phony about him whatsoever. He's not a phony. Yeah. He's completely putting music first. And that guy, like the amount of work that he did in such a short time to get all those harmonies organized, and that was all off his own back, because we just gave him bare bones. So, here you go. There's some bones. Put some flesh onto it or make soup.
Wow.
Do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And, and we asked that question. What can you do that's fantastic? And his answer was, well, basically everything. Watch me. And I thought, this guy's not a phony at all. Yeah. He's not a sham. He's he's that armed to the teeth with musical and artistic ability that, having a nice large set of lapels on his jacket, that is just icing on the cake for him. That guy is incredible, and it's the privilege of a lifetime for me to be in a band with him. It really is, because he's very, very, very potent in his artistic delivery of what we want from him. He's very potent, and on top of that, he's a pretty nice guy. He's a very nice guy as well, so he's good to hang out with.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people are shocked that he joined the band, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to sound like rubbish. What are you guys doing?" My answer was this: it's like, well, it's my band, right? Yeah. It's my band, and it's me, Blackie, and Murray, our drummer. Yeah. It's our band, and it's up to us to have the imagination to hear things without having the parts all there. And that's why bands go into studios to make demos. And we ask each other, what do you hear when you write that song? Yeah. What do you hear the drums doing? What do you hear the bass doing? Yeah. And if I write a song, I tell the guitar player, listen, I hear this, and he'll play something. I go, no, that's not quite what I have heard in my mind's eye, I don't hear that. But so it's up to us to have that imagination. And if somehow we stumble upon some moth-eaten part of our brain, we hear something that involves Tim Rogers, that's because that's our imagination. Yeah. We have that imagination. We don't expect people who are not in our band to have the imagination to hear what we heard, because they're not in our bands.
100%.
So when people tell me that they're surprised, I'm surprised that they're surprised. Yes. This is a Hard-Ons. There are no more things for us to achieve with the current lineup. How long have we been going for? Yeah, it's like, just stop. Yeah, exactly. Give something else a go.
Yeah. I also was watching an interview that you did, and I can't remember. It was a reasonably long one about you sort of explaining to the interviewer that the guitar was a gateway drug for you to be a bass player, and you had no real desire to go back and play the guitar. Is there any other instruments that you do play other than the bass? Because I have seen a video of you playing the drums on YouTube on a certain clip.
Oh, that's just miming, and that was terrible miming.
I don't know. You did a pretty good job there, just quietly. You had me going for a second.
No. We've when I was at school, I played the recorder, but from what I know, that's one. I think that's just one level up from being able to clap. So,
hey, I can barely clap, so you're doing a whole lot better than me. Now, I suppose the next question for me is, how did you come up with the title for the album, Sorry Sir, That Riff Is Taken? Like, is that a collective thing? It was something that you've been holding on to from a previous album, or was it just something?
No, that was Blackie. That was all 100% Blackie, our guitar player. Yeah. So we've there's this fallacy that playing in a rock and roll band is some kind of, lovely democracy, but all those things are lies. They think, they say that America's a democracy. Well, it's kind of not. So, and playing in a band's a democracy. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not. It's everyone has to, but at the same time, each person has a really strong role. Yep. And the problem is, when we get to the pointy end of the season, making an album, you've got all the drums. That belongs to the realm of the drummer, and then you've got the bass player does that, all that kind of stuff. And then you're stuck with this weird, esoteric, weird-ass problem of, what are we going to call the album, And it's like, well, you can't let the drummer have a decision in things like this. It always gets wrong, So what do you do? But then at the same time, you're telling the drummer your role is really important. If you don't have a good drummer, you don't have a good band.
Exactly.
The drummer is the most important guy in the band. Yep. And then he says, can I have a say in what we call the album? He's like, no, you can't. You're the drummer.
Yeah, 100%.
Jeez. So in the end, we're like, what are we going to call the album? And I said, let the alpha male have what he has to say. So basically, so he said, I want to call the album, I'm sorry, sir, that risk's been taken. And we're like, okay, that'll do.
Yep, I did actually sit down, and as I said, I've listened to the album quite a few times. The standout ones for me, I was a big fan of Pucker Up. There's a certain section of string in there that is absolutely next level. To me, it just screams bass and guitar. It's just, you kind of get lost in it. Another one, which is probably my favourite, and this is no means a coincidence for me, would be Frequencies, which I found out you actually had a hand in writing that as well. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I wrote the main riff for the song, mate. The main body of the song was me, but I just brought that to the studio to say, hey, listen, does this sound too much like Black Flag? And they were like, well, yeah, a little bit. Well, yeah, it sounds a lot like Black Flag. I go, well, can we play it? They're like, well, yeah, okay, all right, we'll play it. Just listen. Ray does all the bookkeeping. He does the t-shirt designs. Just make him happy for a little bit. We're going to just play his stupid little riff, and then we kept on playing it. Yep. And then we gave the demo to Tim Rogers, and he goes, oh, can I finish it off? We're like, yeah. So Tim Rogers came up with the outro, the little outro riff. Blackie came up with that, and Tim Rogers came up with all the lyrics, all the singing and everything. So it was one of the songs on the album where, all the other songs were written, the melody was written, and then Blackie wrote Blackie went looking for the chords that fit the melody, whereas this one, it was backwards. There was just a series of notes, and then we said, okay, it's just a skeleton. Get pretty boy, new boy to, put his, Allen Ginsberg's ghost.
Another one that I really loved was Home Sweet Home. It was a little bit more of a kind of a funner, playful track than the other ones, but I think my absolute favourite would have to be the last song, Shoot Me in the Back. The lyrics, and I strongly urge anyone that is listening to this to go and grab the album. This last song is so funny. The lyrics in it are, and I'll quote this, I'm going to bleed on your brand new tiled floor. I'm going to bleed like I've never bled before. To me, it feels like I would sing that song sort of on the car to go pick up the kids from school pickup. Like I wouldn't have them in the car while singing it, but it's just a really, I don't know, it's a catchy track. It's the more I listen to it, the lyrics are very, very clever, and they're written very well to the song. Was it a lot of fun? Yeah. Is it a lot of fun playing that song? I'd imagine playing it live would be an absolute blast.
Yeah, we normally chuck that towards the end of the set because we definitely play that one every gig, but it's a good mixture of having a really good catchy melody, but the actual series of chords is quite heavy and tough. So and the rhythm is actually quite driving. So it's like almost like power pop where it's poppy, but it's really driving and heavy at the same time. Yeah, so that's people seem to like that one. It's a fun song to play, definitely, and we definitely play that every gig.
Oh, it's just one of those songs that you can actually still, being heavy, you can still sing along to and still appreciate the words and just, I don't know, I just feel like that in front of a room full of a couple of hundred people or 1,000 people, it would just be one of those songs that absolutely goes off.
It goes off, yeah, definitely. But Blackie wrote all the music and lyrics for it, and his sense of humour is generally quite dark. Yeah. There's a healthy bit of cynicism. One, because he's in his mid-50s, and the life's just broken his spirit, and the other part is I think it helps to be quite cynical and critical as well. He's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah.
That last album that we did before this one was called "So I Could Have Them Destroyed."
Yes.
And that was in reference to internet. We've never told this to anyone, but it was about people who, the whole idea that if you do something really badly in life, you go to jail, and then when you come out of jail, you pay your price. So you go and get a job and move on with your life. So, but on the internet, that doesn't happen, because once you do something wrong, they kill you for the rest of your life. Yeah. And it's not, and the people who dispense justice, they're not the police or lawmakers or the judges or the jury, but it's just anyone. Yeah. Anyone can just dispense justice by saying this person did this, so we should make sure that he loses his job or she loses their job or whatever. Yeah. So, and that was in reference to that.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the tours that you've got coming up. So you've got some pretty big gigs here at the moment in WA. They kick off from the 4th, which are in Bunbury, then the 5th in Perth, Scarborough in the 6th, and then you're finishing up in Fremantle on the 7th of August. Now, you've also alluded to the fact that you are looking to go forward for the New Zealand tour. Is the European tour still sort of in the works for mid next year?
Yes, Europe is May, and New Zealand. I think New Zealand is in February. Oh, wow. Now we have to fit this in with Tim's schedule, because there's obviously, out of all the 4 members in the band, he's kind of like the busiest one. Yeah. Yes, because the other guys in the band aren't quite as talented as him. No, you can leave that in. He's actually really busy, but we kind of figured that in May we're all free. Yep. We can go to Europe. In February, there's a little bit of time that we've all got up our sleeve. Then we plan on going to New Zealand for about 3 or 4 shows, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
across the ditch.
Yeah, across the ditch, exactly. Well, look, very, very excited to see you guys next week here over in Perth with the 4 shows. As I said, you can get the tickets from www.oztix.com.au. I strongly suggest the listeners that are listening to this podcast to go and grab the album. The album is an absolute cracker. Sorry, sir, that riff is taken. I can't stress that enough. You did bring that album actually, which I thought was really, really cool. You actually did a limited run of cassettes and also limited runs of vinyl as well, which is really cool. Unfortunately, the blue and the orange have sold out. You can get those, I think, from Cheerleader Cassettes and Records. Is that correct?
Yeah, Cheer Squad.
Cheer Squad, that's right. Yes. Sorry, yeah. I know they've got are you going to be making any more cassettes? Because they yes. Strictly limited to how many we can actually sell. Okay. Fair enough. As I said, it's absolutely been a pleasure having you. The ability to talk to you, Ray. I understand you're really, really busy. Thank you very much for your time. As I said to the people that are listening, you do need to catch these shows if you are in WA. All the information will be up on the Rockpit as well. Plus, do check them out on their social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and also on YouTube as well. Ray Ahn, you're an absolute character, a legend of the bass here for the Hard-Ons and also for just music in general. You're an all-round top bloke. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Ross. And to the listeners, I hope to catch you at one of those shows. Thursday on the 4th, that's at the land of the bum dance.
Bunbury?
Yes, and an Amplify on the 5th on Friday, and then Scarborough Beach Indian Ocean Hotel on the 6th Saturday, and on the 7th Sunday, that's the land of the America's Cup victory. Yes, Alan Bonds.
And you can get all the information for that, obviously, on the Facebook pages, the website, also on Rockpit, and you can grab your tickets direct at www.oztix.com.au. Mr. Ray Ahn, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ross. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate.
Are you coming to the shows?
Yes.
Are you coming
definitely.
to the shows?
Yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there on the Friday gig, but I'll definitely catch up with you anyway. It'd be great to meet the man behind the stories.
I'll give you a beer from one of our riders.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Take care. Thank you, Ross. Bye-bye.
Bye. For more interviews and reviews, don't forget to check out the Rockpit at www.therockpit.net.